Howdy folks, welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Today, and this is long overdue, but there's a good reason for it, we're going to be taking a look at the T32, the American Tier 8 heavy tank. Now the reason I've left it this long to take a look at this tank is because I sold it. I'm not proud of it. I really enjoyed driving this tank, and I did regret getting rid of it, but at the time I had unlocked the M103 and I didn't have enough money to buy it, so I had to sell my T32 and put my T32 crew in this. But I did miss driving the T32, so I recently bought it back again, and I haven't regretted a second of it. I think this is just a great tank, and I'm going to show you why. Now, as always, there's going to be a bit of talking before we get onto the gameplay, so if you just want to skip straight to the gameplay, there's a timestamp in the video description and popping up as an annotation on screen right now. Click that if you just want to go straight to the tank battles. If not, here goes the garage review. So, T32, Tier 8 heavy tank, and as a Tier 8 heavy it does have some stiff competition. It's standing up against legends like the Tiger II, the IS-3, tanks like that, which are very, very strong tanks and do have a fearsome reputation at Tier 8. But I think the T32 compares quite favourably to them. It's a strong tank in its own way. Hit point wise, it's Joe average, 1550 hit points with the upgraded turret. If you look at the Germans, for example, you'll see that the Tiger II has 1600, so only 50 more. The IS-3, 1500. So Joe average as far as health goes. It can take a couple of hits. It's quite heavy, but not ridiculously heavy. It has a weight limit with the upgraded suspension of 60.5 tons. And with the equipment setup that I have on mine clocks in at 58.35. It does have quite a powerful engine though, an 800 horsepower engine, and it can do up to 35 kilometers per hour, so it's not slow. It's reasonably mobile for such a large, heavy tank. The traverse is not great, 25 degrees per second, but it's not terrible either, and that also translates into the turret traverse, which is exactly the same, 25 degrees. Again, it's not particularly slow, but it's not particularly quick either. This is definitely not a medium tank. The view range is fantastic, 400 meters, and it's got a very, very good radio with a 745 meter signal range. So there's the basics out of the way. All we need to do now is look at the armour and the gun. And the armour of this tank is actually one of its strongest points. So we're going to flash up Tank Inspector and take a closer look at that. So, Tank Inspector, let's have a look at the armour of the T32. So we'll flash up the collision model, and there we can start to look at the various different armour zones. Now when people talk about the T32's armour, foremost in their mind is the turret armour of this tank, because it is absolutely legendary. From the front, you're just not going to get through the turret of the T32. That gun manlet is 298mm thick. The turret front is 298mm thick. It's just practically impenetrable. The turret sides are not bad either. The front 2/3 of the side of the turret is 197mm, with the rear third of the side of the turret and the whole of the rear of the turret being 152mm. There is a weak spot of sorts on the side, it's this hatch here, which is 101mm, and you can see what it looks like there. It's this hatch. The turret is just, it's a fortress. If you have to shoot, if this tank is hull down and all you can see to shoot at is the front of the turret, then the commander's hatch up on top here, that's what you need to be shooting at. However, it's not that easy a target. It's not that large a target, it is very rounded, it is very sloped. And its nominal thickness of 152mm, well, thanks to, let's take a closer look at it, thanks to that rounding and sloping, it's more like effective 200mm or slightly less of armour, so you still need a good gun, even to penetrate the commander's hatch. Now, the rest of the armour of the tank from the sides and the rear is pretty garbage, but this is a feature that is common to American heavy tanks. Side and rear armour is bad. The side armour is only 76mm, the rear armour is even worse, it's only 51. But the whole front is interesting. The upper glacis is technically 127mm thick, and the lower glacis is technically 95mm thick. We'll come on to that in more detail in a moment. If you're in close combat with the T32, T32 drivers like to get right up in your face hug your tank, so that all you can really shoot at is their turret front, and you're just going to bounce and bounce and bounce. If you have the gun depression for it, you want to be shooting here, where it's only 51mm, or these hatches here, where they're 76, or even 38 if you can shoot down right into the hatch top. If you don't have the gun depression for it, you're in trouble. But the actual upper and lower glacis, here's something that I didn't realise you could do when I first got Tank Inspector, but I've been notified about it. We're going to take shots at the upper glacis and lower glacis to show you the effective armour thanks to that sloping of the frontal armour. So here we go. So from this angle, straight on, shooting at the front of the T32, we're going to go into sniper mode. You do this by pressing shift, by the way. And we're going to take a shot at that, and we're going to take a shot at that. So there you go, 2 shots fired from, well, the angle's not perfect, but close enough for demonstration purposes. 2 shots fired straight into the front of the T32. Upper glacis armour, 127mm, thanks to that sloping and angling. Well, it says 202, but the angle wasn't perfect. It's just under, effectively, fired from straight ahead, just under 200mm. The lower glacis, effectively, well, it's 95mm of actual thickness, but thanks to the sloping, it's reporting an equivalent of 140, but again, you know, the angle's not perfect. It's not really straight on. It's more like 135. So, from the front, this isn't a badly armoured tank at all. And if you can get this thing hull down, where you're only presenting your turret front to enemy tanks, this thing is practically impregnable. And of course, the other hallmark of American tanks is it has good gun depression, 10 degrees of gun depression, just like the T29 before it, and the M6 before that. So one of these tanks, cresting a ridge, exposing only his turret front, and firing down over the ridge at you, or in a completely hull down position, is a very, very dangerous opponent. So where's the catch? You know, the tank's got good armour. In certain situations, it's got overpowered armour. Get this thing hull down, and it's a really, really tough nut to crack. The mobility is not bad at all. Where's the catch? Well, the gun. The gun is a source of major disappointment to a lot of people when they move up to the T32 from the T29. Now, I must hasten to emphasise that it's not a bad gun. It's just not really an upgrade over what you had at Tier 7, because it is the same gun that's on the T29, the 105mm T5E1. While it's technically the same gun, it's not actually exactly the same. You do get some soft stat increases because you're using it at Tier 8 now. The accuracy is slightly better. The rate of fire is slightly better. Other than that, it's the same gun. It's got the same 198mm of penetration, the same 320 damage, the same 2.3 second aiming time. 2.3 second aiming time is pretty good. 0.41 accuracy, which is slightly improved over the same gun on the T29, is still pretty bad, however. The 5.66 rounds per minute rate of fire is alright. It's better than the 5.26 rate of fire that you had on the T29. But for a lot of people, the killer is that 198mm of penetration, which is great at Tier 7. Not so good at Tier 8. And it falls behind its main competitors, the Tiger II and the IS-3. The Tiger II with a 105mm gun, 225mm of penetration, better rate of fire, much better accuracy, slightly longer aiming time, same damage. If you were to look at the IS-3, much better damage, 390, much better penetration, 225. Rate of fire, not as good. Accuracy, believe it or not, actually better, 0.4. Still pretty bad accuracy, but it's better. Worse aiming time, much, much worse aiming time. 3.4 second aiming time is terrible. But it's really the penetration, and it's because the penetration is exactly the same, but now you're a tier higher, and you're having to engage tier 10 tanks with that gun. That puts a lot of people off the T32, and yet I still like this tank. I make that gun work, even without using premium ammo. With premium ammo, you're going to get 245mm of penetration. But I make it work because I tend to use this tank in close combat, where the .41 accuracy doesn't really matter, and you drive this thing right up into people's faces, where all they can shoot at is the front of your turret. And even tier 10 tanks are going to bounce off the turret front of this thing unless they have the gun depression to shoot down into the upper hull here, or they've got the accuracy, and let's face it, a lot of tier 10 tanks do have the accuracy to penetrate your commander's hatch. But situationally, you can make this thing work despite the 198mm of penetration on this relatively disappointing gun. Now, researching and unlocking the various different equipment modules on the T32 does need to be done in a specific order, and it's a kind of good news, bad news situation. What you're looking at here is a stock T32. That's the stock turret, the stock 90mm gun, the stock suspension. It's even got the stock engine. The only thing on there that is not stock is the radio, but the upgraded radio actually weighs 20 kilos less than the standard radio. So looking at what we can fit straight away, we can fit these engines, and that engine you will also have already unlocked on the T29, and the top engine you should already have unlocked also on the T29, so they will be available to be fitted straight away, and the weight difference between the engines is negligible. So even though we have very, very little spare load capacity on the stock suspension, you can at least fit the top engine. So there we go. What you cannot do, and this is the first major bummer that people come across when they get the T32, is what you cannot fit is the 105mm gun. And that's a major blow to morale to people when they come to the T32, because they've been using that 105mm gun on the T29, they get the new tank at tier 8, and they have to go back to using a 90mm. So the first thing that you want to research on the T32 is the suspension. It will set you back 14,500 research points. Once you've got the suspension, it's all gravy. Straight away you can just slap that 105mm gun on and then spend the rest of your time upgrading the turret, and that's all you need to upgrade on the T32. All you need to research is the suspension and the turret, because you've already got the gun from the T29, you've already got the radios, the engines from the T29. You also have the radio from the T29. So it's one of the easiest research grinds in the game. It's the tracks for 14,500 XP, the turret for 21,400 XP, and you are going to want that turret because that turret is the one with the 298mm of armor at the front. The stock turret is pretty terrible. 114mm of armor at the front, 76 at the sides and rear. So it's a relatively gentle upgrade path, but it is kind of frustrating in that, let me just put my proper equipment upgrades back on it, make sure I've got everything there. Yes, yes, yes. There we go. Wouldn't want to go into battle with a stock T32. Oh, that would be horrible. But yes, once you get the T32, you're like, yes, I've got the tier 8. Ah, crap, I have to go back to using the M6's gun, which is a bit of a nightmare for people. But there you go. That's how you want to do it, and that's why you have to do it in that order. As far as equipment modules are concerned, the T32 can use a vertical stabilizer. So I use a vertical stabilizer. You obviously also want to use a large caliber tank gun rammer, and I love my ventilation. Put that extra 5% on all crew skills. So I think that just about covers everything you need to know about the T32. Let's take this thing on the battlefield. Yeah, let's get this show on the road. This is an all T32 tank platoon. It's point-ahead Jedi, circumflexes, and myself. One of the games from Circon's live stream. Nice little tier 8 game here on Erlenberg. Not my favourite map in World of Tanks, but very, very good T32 fighting territory. Around here on the corner of Fail, you're going to see what I mean. And yes, despite earlier protests to the contrary, I did load up the premium ammo right from the get-go in this game. APCR in case of the T32, which has 254mm of penetration. I just had this funny feeling that we were going to run right into all of their tier 8 heavies. The IS-3s, the 110. And I wanted to make sure. And, well, initially, watch this Cromwell. You know, sometimes you see people driving their tank and you just think, what the hell were you trying to achieve? It's not like he didn't know we were all there. The T-21 had spotted us. There goes my first ricochet off the turret cheek. But now I'm in the low ground and I've got a bead on this very unfortunate T-150. It's my first kill. Didn't need the premium ammo for him. We've got some big ass tanks up on this ridgeline. Now, from either side of this position, either from up where those guys are, or down here where I am, these are the kind of positions you want to be getting the T-32 into. Where you can, if not hide, and make it very difficult for them to shoot your hull, and only really give them your turret. Didn't quite pull back fast enough there. Didn't need to go as far forward as I did to get shots into that T-34, and now they're just bouncing off my turret. Now I've pulled back to the right distance to keep my hull hidden. Now, premium ammo ain't an I win button. There is nowhere, even with APCR, from this angle I can hit that IS-3 and penetrate. Penetrating the AMX M4 wouldn't have been a problem, but even at these kind of relatively close ranges, the inaccuracy of the gun is going to cause you frustration. On the other hand, those were 4 shots in the space of 2 or 3 seconds that hit the turret of this tank, and the only one that penetrated was the shot from the IS-3, who timed it perfectly and waited until my gun was pointing further to the left, put one in the turret side. Now, Super Pershing. Stayed at the low ground, so this is the only guy who's capable of firing his gun at me. Go for the side shot on the Super Pershing. When you've got it, and when you don't have it, you aim for the commander's hatch. Damn it, he's killed circumflexes. Head further down. Keep this thing hull down. Got him. It's kill number 2. And again, good position. With my gun depression, kill number 3. And you're not doing anything in the T-32 any different to what you should be doing in any other tank. You only advance as far as you need to in order to get the gun pointed at the target and no further. Don't give them any more of your tank to shoot at than you need to. The difference is with the T-32, with the gun depression and that turret front, you give them very, very little to shoot at. Unfortunately, that was me being cocky after getting 4 kills, desperate for another one. After missing that first shot with the ISU aiming at me and ready to fire, I should never have moved forward to take the second shot. Not until after he had already fired. It just gave him free damage on my tank. Luckily, he got a low damage roll, and I got away with it. And in that position, on a map like Erlenberg, hull down in a T-32, it is not difficult to get a steel wall medal. We actually took, well, exactly 11 hits. It's the minimum that you need to get a steel wall, with 4,000 potential damage received. And while we didn't do the most damage, we came pretty close. In fact, all of the platoon did pretty well there, with all 3 of us finishing in the top 4 on damage and XP earned. So that was nice. This was a hell of a game. It's me, Quickie Baby and Ike. Myself and Ike both in our T-32s. Quickie Baby in his Carnarvon. We're here on Pearl River. And this could so easily have been a massive disaster when you see the way the teams deploy, you'll see what I mean. So we're rushing for the Valley of Death, and I love fighting here in heavy tanks, especially American heavies like the T32. You've got that gun depression. Now technically this is a tier 9 game because both teams do have a tier 9 tank, but most of the tanks on both teams are overwhelmingly tier 8 heavies. Lots and lots of premiums, lots of Lurvas, the occasional T34, an FCM 50T, Super Pershings. And I do like getting up to this spot. But look, I'm just going to pull the camera back. Well, first of all, we're going to take a shot at this AMX. There we go. Look at what we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Against the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. So we're outnumbered. And the amount of bounces that you can get from the turret front of this tank when you're in this sort of position is just absurd. And their artillery is giving us a damn good kicking. We've just lost one of the T32s. But we've nailed one of their IS-3s. That Type 59's trying to give me problems, but... oh, there we go. Our artillery's getting stuck in as well. This was such a good fight. Finished off that 48. Enemy T-34 there. Hit that commander's hatch, but it's a very, very difficult target. Shot deviated slightly to the right, didn't hit it flush on, just ricocheted clean off that very rounded and angled commander's hatch. That one, again, this accuracy is very, very bad. That shot just went way too high and didn't even hit the T-34. Now we've just lost the IS-3, so I'm alone up here now. Front of the turret of a Type 59, difficult target to penetrate. Don't really want to waste the shot and give them the opportunity to come around and rush me. That shot, on the other hand, I will take. And another bounce. I haven't taken any damage yet, but now I'm going to pull the camera back again and see what we're facing. There's only 4 of us left. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And I just keep bouncing shots like crazy off the turret front of this tank. It is so strong. Unfortunately, we've just lost Ike, and we've just lost a T-29. And I'm bouncing more shots. And now there's just me and Quickie Baby against... I've lost count. Put another one into the Type 59. So Quickie Baby's guarding the back. I'm guarding the front. We're doomed. We are completely doomed. I'm starting to take hits from the side now. Quickie Baby's down to 26 or 20 health. And it's just a question of slowing them down, doing as much damage as we possibly can to them. And I got the kill, finished off the KV-5. Here they come. I'm trying to protect Quickie Baby from these guys on the flank, trying to keep his gun in play. He kills the T-34. I get another hit into the Type 59. They finish off Quickie Baby. I've only got one hit left in me. Can I do some more damage? No. But what a fight! What a fight. Outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded, back to back with Quickie Baby there. The last 2 left alive. Went down fighting. And look at the map. So, yeah, we've you know, we could still lose this, but that delaying action, that fight in the valley, and a couple of them, you see, this is where the enemy team throw it away. They're not all coming back. They've split their forces instead of coming back to defend their own cap. And the tanks that do come back to defend their cap, look at the health that they have left thanks to that beating that we gave them in the valley. And that ISA is taking no prisoners. These guys are all one-shot kills. And suddenly, what could have gone either way is a clear win. And it was all thanks to that, well, you know, heroic last stand right over there where we all sold our lives dearly. So that was a win. And yeah, I was really happy with that result. Even though we died, we basically won the game for the team. You know, did the most damage and earned the most XP, despite only getting one kill. Just totally roadblocked all of those enemy tanks, totally outnumbered, totally outgunned, made them pay for every inch of territory they gained, held them back long enough for the rest of the team to just sweep around and kick all of their asses. Really good game. Even though we all died, it was totally worth it. 12 shots fired, 11 hits, 10 penetrations, 2,500 damage. Took 14 hits before we eventually got surrounded, overrun, and knocked out with 4,200 potential damage received. Damaged 5 enemy tanks, killed one of them, as well as getting 1,000 spotting damage. So, despite the fact that we all died horribly, we sold our lives dearly and made them pay in blood for every inch of ground they gained. It was a really, really enjoyable game to play. So we're going to finish things off with this match. This is a patch 8.10 replay, much more recent. I'm platooned up with Sircon and Sir Foch. Sircon in his new Japanese Tier 8 medium, the STA-1. Myself and Foch both driving T32s. It's a Tier 8 maximum game. We're here on Abbey. Now, there are 2 artillery in play on the enemy team. And normally, that north-south road on the east of the map, next to the river, is usually where the heavy tanks go. But I do not like going down that road in heavy tanks when there's artillery on the map. There's very little artillery cover down there. The T32 has a massive exposed, thinly armoured engine deck behind the turret. It's just... things do not usually end well for me when I go down that road in a heavy tank and there's artillery in play. So instead we're going to go down the western end of the map, and that's going to have consequences, as you'll see if you pay attention to the map, because the only people we have going down there are a Leopard, the tier 5 light tank Leopard, and we've got a Sturrer Emil guarding the corner. So if we're going to go down this side, we're going to need to go down here hard, fast and aggressive. Circumflexes has already moved way ahead of us, scouting out. I'm going to back him up. Foch is going to stay on the low road, and we're going to push very fast, very aggressive up here. The enemy tanks have already pretty much taken the monastery in the centre, and they're pushing very hard up the eastern flank as well. But we do have opportunity shots here against that massive enemy tanks who've just taken the monastery. That shot did hit the KV-1S, and now here comes a Type 58. So enough loitering in the middle, we need to move. This guy's on fire, but hey, I'm not proud. I don't want him running around behind me. Make sure he's dead. ARL 44, who's being pushed by Foch. Kill him too. And we've got to keep moving. That Panther's going to try to back off. We can't let him get away. Now, at this point, our major concern, despite the fact that, I mean, we're losing pretty heavily, Foch has already decided, screw this, I'm going to head back and try to counter the IS-3 and Super Pershing who are pushing on our base. Sircon is already going back to also prevent the base from being capped. I have to keep moving here, because I know that enemy artillery are going to, if they have any sense, see the threat that I am about to, and there they go. They're nothing if not predictable. We're losing 4-6. And to be honest, if I was in enemy artillery, I would have prioritised me as a priority target there as well, because I'm practically free to run into their base now. I'm the biggest threat against them. This Su-152 has just driven right past. To be fair to him, he just notices and he starts turning around. And we've got these two guys in a good position now, but oh, there's a Nashorn. Now, I don't believe I've been spotted here. And that's a really dangerous tank destroyer. So, I'm going to take advantage of the Su-152 spotting and kill him so he can't give overwatch fire to these two tier 8s. And I'm going to help the T32 and Su-152. These guys cannot retreat any further without taking hits from that Su-152, and it looks like the 452A is concentrating on the Su-152, which is great, because that means we can now focus our fire on the Super Pershing. I'm going for a ram here. The T-34 just rammed the 4502 to death, and the Su-152 put one into the rear of the Super Pershing. We're still losing, but it's not that bad. Foch and Sercon are now in position to start resetting the cap. Myself and the Su-152, well, those two artillery are still in play. And there's an AMX 5100 coming back to reset. There is the Su-14, and I don't really have much of a shot here. He fires, no idea where that shot was going. Foch and Sercon are working them over in the cap circle. And I finally get him. Not quite sure what's going on with that vertical white stripe on the screen. A bit of a bug in the replay. But here comes the 5100. Now this guy is going to be dangerous. Put one into him, he fires, my tracks take it. He fires again, it bounces. Now he's in trouble. And I'm going after the kill, and that's when I spot the KV-1S, whose gun is pointing right at me. Put one shot into him, back off, it bounces off my upper glacis. I can no longer go after that AMX 5100, not with the KV-1S putting flank shots into me. So I put this hill on my left between myself and the KV-1S. Go for a quick look. Don't know how many shots this AMX 5100 has. I'm still safe from the KV-1S here. 5100 hits me, kills my driver, hits me again, does no damage. Make sure of the shot, finish him off. Now, KV-1S. Our cap is secure. We've lost our Su-152. I have to keep moving. Enemy artillery could be aiming right at me. But I don't want to pop right out, because I'll still be spotted. And there we go. If I'd popped right out there, the dead AMX 5100 would still have been reporting my position at the KV-1S. He could have pre-aimed on the corner and killed me as I popped out looking for him. Because I delayed popping out, I then disappeared off his radar, which let me get the first shot off at him, and now I'm going artillery hunting. So that was a hell of a comeback, and a nice little top gun. And I'm anxious for my 7th kill, and I'm trying to figure out where the enemy artillery driver will have gone, but I should have known in advance. He's the only one left alive. He's about to die. So of course, he drowns himself, because, you know, that's what they do. So, not a bad little result in the T32. A nice top gun there, 51,000 credits earned, over 3,000 XP, doubled obviously for the first win of the day, and a good platoon result as well, with all of us doing over 3,000 damage. Foch, 3,700, really working over the enemy tanks, trying to cap there. Ably assisted by circumflexes, also doing over 3,000 damage, and myself doing just shy of 3,200. Getting 6 kills, 10 kills between us. Not quite a crucial contribution, but we did wipe out 2/3 of the enemy team by ourselves, which was, you know, nice. And a fine rollout for the T32. 15 shots fired, 14 hits, 13 penetrations, 3,198 damage. Took 10 hits, 5 of which penetrated. At least 2 of those only went into the tracks. For quite a comfortable and convincing victory. So there it is, T32, American Tier 8 heavy tank. It's not everybody's favourite Tier 8 heavy, but I think it's a great machine, and I really did regret having to sell this thing in order to be able to fund the purchase of the M103. Not that I regretted getting the M103, the M103 is a fantastic tank as well. I was sorry to see this thing go, and I was very, very happy when I repurchased this thing and started playing it again, because I've had a lot of fun driving this tank, and I'm sure if you like what you've seen in this video, I'm sure you will too. As always folks, take care on that battlefield, and I'll catch you next time.